We love and care about our work so much, and the whole point of talking about this is to hopefully, like, demystify the whole process, 'cause I don't think really people go into, like, wanting a commission with negative intentions, and I don't think.
Hi.
Hi, Morgan.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I have with me some cookies that I've got at the drugstore down the street,
Love it.
and if I needed them. And I haven't opened them yet, but I did open some of these. What are they called? The Chex, like Nutty Buddy things, like the powdered
Oh my
packed
god.
things. I went to the drugstore to get toilet paper, and I was like, what do I buy for junk food for myself? It's what we do to get ourselves motivated, and I needed that today. So, um, other than that, I'm pretty good. I'm just a little tired. What about you?
Yeah, same. I feel
Tie.
that's a good word, like, just kinda drained,
Mm-hmm.
but good,
But
actually,
good.
like, considering everything that's been going on, these conversations and this project, like, hopefully launching this whole thing publicly, there's just a whole long list of stuff to be really excited about.
Yeah, there is. I know. I have like people buying my work.
Tell me about that.
I decided to post a couple of original paintings on my website just
Mhm.
to have an easy transaction. And I posted underneath the description, if you're local, we could do curbside pickup and we can eliminate any of the shipping cost. And someone from Salem bought this like 12 by 12 painting, which right now I'm selling for 325. So it's very affordable.
Mhm.
And then that little blobby painting that I posted to Instagram that you were like, I love this. Um, that one sold too. So I sold two paintings
I
last week.
love that one. I love
Thanks.
it.
I have two feelings about selling work right now.
Mhm.
One is that I don't have enough work to really sell. So whenever I post something, it seems to go, which is really exciting and great. But it gives me a confidence and a fear at the same time that if I post something, it will go and I won't have anything to share with the world or with clients or customers or people that might want something or just have for myself for a
Mhm.
while. But then it gives me this like opportunity to say, oh, well, I'm selling. So just make work and sell it. But then if it doesn't sell, I'll be really discouraged because maybe it's just a surge. Maybe it's just there are people ready to buy. We just got another stimulus check. I usually get people buying my stuff when the stimulus checks were coming in.
Yep.
So I have a couple of like, yeah, I guess I'm fearful that if I make small works for 325, that's pretty cheap for a 12 by 12.
Mhm.
There are paintings out there that I don't even remember making because I sold them so fast after making them. And I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, that's all.
Maybe it's, like, the desperation or something. Like, mostly I am not upset to see them go, even if it's right after after I finish the painting.
Mm.
However, I did feel it a few times, like this past December when I was really trying to push, uh, like, painting sales, and, um, things were going really quick. So, there were times where I pretty much finished a painting, like, that day, and it sold that day, and you know what, I don't know if you do this, but, like, making things with your hands and having it be in physical space and then having to, like, physically send it elsewhere. Oh, I kind of do these, like, little rituals, I'm realizing, like, when I did the love letter project, I was, like, carrying the letters around in my pocket and kinda rereading them. There was one time I, like, rewrote a letter And in the moments where I felt kind of weird about like giving away something I had just
Mm,
made and not really got a chance to spend time with, I did these like little rituals where I was kind of like rehanging them. There was a time where I sold one 12 by 12 that was kind of in a series with 3 other paintings. I like took out all 4 and like hung them up and like looked at them again, photographed them together, and then wrapped up that one that sold and sent it away. There's just little things that it kind of comes naturally where I'm like, I just feel like I kind of need to do this. I need to like
mhm.
before I send this away, I'm gonna like hang it up with other ones, or I'm just gonna like hold it. Sometimes I'll like hang it up in my house. I'm gonna like stare at it for like 24 hours before I send it out, kind of
Mm,
thing. I
yeah.
don't know why. I don't really put that much thought into it. My body just does that.
Well, I think we have a relationship to our work, which
Mm,
is it's part of us. So we're even if it's small or in the moment and you're making it, and I have plenty of those smaller pieces that I kind of have on the side as I'm working alongside these like bigger pieces. I have these small canvases set up. So if I have an extra color, I'll just kind of throw it onto a small canvas so I don't waste it. But then I end up falling so in love with these like small little pieces that I don't know what they are yet. And then if they sell, I'm like, okay, bye. I guess I'll never know you. So for me, it's like the relationship builds over time. Like I kind of create the piece because I have maybe it's different for you because you kind of have a method in place before you set something up. I'm not sure. We'll get to that. So I have questions for you about that, but maybe it's the way that I'm making them that's actually the reason for this fear of letting it go. Maybe it's the way I'm making it. Finished a painting and I showed the whole thing and I'm really proud of it. And this one painting I took my time with and I really thought about each mark I was going to make, which is very different from how I operate in my other works. Um,
mhm.
I generally don't have a plan before setting myself up to start a painting. I know what colors I want to use, or I know how I want to push myself. I think of a lot of imagery before I fall asleep, and then I end up kind of going for it in the studio before it gets lost. With this big one, I'm like, I don't think I'd be ready to like let it go yet. So I'm going to apply for a show with it and see if I can hang in a show and then give it another life in a different space.
Yeah, I do relate to that actually in relation to a show. Like
Yeah.
I actually like verbally say that. Like if a painting goes to someone's home and it has only been seen online, it feels really weird. Like I will
Yeah.
say like this yeah, like you're going to a new home, like nobody's ever seen you, but like I hope you have a good life.
Yeah. And you hear me talking about these pieces in my blog, like or vlog. I'm like, oh, that cute little guy right there. And like, oh, it just seems so, they already have a personality. They can be sassy or bold or quiet and shy. These
Yeah.
big ones have so much opportunity to be so many different things and so
Yeah.
complex, where these small ones for me are like, they have a personality with the first mark because it's such a small surface. And
Yep.
so, yeah, I don't know. I just
Well,
having
it's
thoughts.
interesting. It's interesting how you said it might be the way you make the smaller work because I
Mm,
also relate to that. Like the smaller work for me, there's no agenda. Like
mm,
a lot of time it's like I don't know, like I ripped a piece of fabric, like
I know.
like with paint on it. Like there's no. It's like even if it's on a substantial surface like a panel or a canvas, it's like how much money did you spend on that canvas? Like $10? Like I know you didn't spend more than 20 bucks on that. Like there is no loss and therefore it's not precious and it's more free. At least just for, I can speak for myself. Like
Yeah.
I am fearless when I work on small stuff. So exciting things happen when you're in that fearless place.
Mm.
and
Yeah.
I discover a lot more quickly because they're smaller again. And when I document that, like in the finished product, all those discoveries and risks that paid off, it's so exciting. And again, I don't know about you, but I always say, like, I really want to capture this magic on a bigger scale. And sometimes I'll like try and do that, but it's more tricky when the smaller work sells and you kind of feel like some of the magic is gone. And then you're like looking at photos of it, trying to do a similar thing on a
Hmm.
larger surface. But at that point, it's kind of planned. You're trying to like plan out the same thing that
Oh,
happened. So,
that's what I'm trying to do with this commission that
mhm,
I'm working on, that I talk about in my second vlog, is I'm trying to take a print that's 8 by 10 and blow it up to a 3 by 4 painting. And they want it to
wow.
be exact. They want it to be
Wow.
exact. And in this print, we have texture, really interesting color combinations that really were accidental in this process.
Hmm.
This was a painting I made 2, 3 years ago. And it bred
Wow.
a beautiful array of prints that I love. But yeah, I ended up emailing the clients today. I finally found the words to say how much I'm struggling with it without, I couldn't have any more time pass. I've already been paid in full. It's been such a challenge. It's like the more I work on it, the flatter the surface gets. And at one point, it was so beautiful. And I sent photos because they asked me to send photos.
Hmm.
Um, I sent it to the middleman, which is the interior designer, and she gave me feedback that totally threw me off. It kind of, it stopped the freedom for me, and it stopped that creative, like, oh, I can't wait to try to get this texture. I'm just going to go for it. Now I'm like, pouring on this color and I'm trying to get it to be, oh, it can't go out of that line. It needs to stay in this section, um, because they want it to be so exact. So I ended up emailing directly the client saying, I really hope you're okay with how much time has gone by. I really thank you for your patience. I'm obviously not operating at a level that I once was, because of COVID. And I'm sorry for the amount of time, but also the subject matter it's become clear to me that this is a very big challenge for me as the type of painter that I am.
Hmm.
I kind of said that the feedback didn't offer me any freedom. It really kind of subdued it just kind of halted that experience for me. And it doesn't really give me the idea that this painting can be mine anymore. I'm like copying a version of a painting that I did 3 years ago. So it's a different version of me that they want. So I take it so literally. And I'm like, oh, how do I tap back into my older self? Who made this painting? How did you get there? And I'm trying to go down the line of the techniques that I used and the materials that I used and colors that I might have used to get there, and it's exhausting me.
Everything you're saying is so relatable. And I think we have talked about commissions a few times
Mm,
and what a struggle they are. And I've talked about them a lot just on my own with gallerists and curators and just friends and even people who are interested in a commission. I did a commission fairly recently and I talked about all this stuff, like how I was saying no to them a lot and my concerns with starting one.
mhm.
So I just got it all like out on the table. And so much of what I said is what you just said. Like I
Okay.
just, yeah, go ahead.
This is my question though. It's, were you scared of telling them where you were at in fear of like losing them as a customer, or thinking that you are not capable for the job and they would withdraw their trust in you? And right, like, so
Yeah.
you had those fears before. I mean, it took me weeks to send this email.
Yeah, I was scared, like, because there's this element as an artist of that you need to survive at all costs
Mhm.
and like what a privilege it is that we get to do this and what a privilege it is that they would even ask us and all
Right,
those
it's
like
so
things.
it's so romantic. right? The
Yeah.
idea.
All those things run through our brains. Like,
Yeah.
of course, it's kind of hard not to. It's a wonderful thing. Like they want art from you. They really like this particular thing,
And they're going to pay
or
you.
and they're gonna pay you, and they're gonna live with it and look at it every day. How cool!
So
But
cool.
I think a lot of people don't talk about what you mentioned, and
Right.
there's so much more to it too. Like
Yeah.
the whole experience is different. No part about working on the commission is similar to how I normally am in my studio, and it never will be. Like
Mm,
that's just my experience because I every move I make is influenced by who the client is and what their space looks like and what they described they wanted, both in like the visual, like what it looks like visually and how it feels to them. And that's just the way it is. And
mm,
sometimes that's actually a good thing. Like the commission I created maybe a month or two ago, I looked at it when I finished and I was so proud of it and I was so
mm.
excited by it, the way it looked, because the experience of making it was actually kind of uncomfortable and painful. Like I didn't really have a lot of I struggle most of it was a struggle and not really knowing what to do and actually feeling like I knew what I should do to resolve the painting, but feeling like I couldn't because it didn't align with what he wanted. And in those moments it's kind of upsetting, like, oh, I really feel like it needs like this like cerulean blue,
Mm,
but he doesn't want that. He doesn't want blue at all. So I cannot add that. And so what do I do to respond to like making this a complete painting, but also what he wants? And
exactly.
yeah, it
Right.
was most of it was uncomfortable. And I guess to finish the thought, like at the end when I looked at it, I was so proud of myself and I was really appreciative of him
Right.
because I know for a fact that I would have never made that painting anywhere near what it ended up looking like without his influence. So,
Exactly. So there's a pro to these commissions that it takes you out of your comfort zone. It puts you into a position where you're going to use maybe a different technique or more technical skills to get to the place where you need to go instead of using maybe your uh, other self that's over here that's really more spontaneous and
your intuition,
you're
yeah.
yeah, exactly. But I do feel like I am looking at a brief every single time. Like I'm looking so closely at this print and I'm like, okay, how do I make it exactly this? And that's just not how I work. It's
Yeah,
such a mentality that is so not here. I am like
I know. I
not
really
that person.
intensely relate to that. And I've
Yeah.
described this a certain way like so many times throughout the years, but it really feels like I'm like working on a drive-through window. Like, okay, you want a large fry and
Yeah.
like and what
Yes.
else? And so I'm fulfilling an order. And if the order doesn't
Yes.
come out like the way that they wanted, then they're not gonna eat it. They're not gonna pay for
Yes.
it. Like
Right.
so there's like this pressure of like kind of
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's exactly that. I feel the same way. I wrote about it in my blog and I was like, I feel like I'm on a Netflix show that like I'm being challenged and I have this brief and I need to make it exactly what it is. And I really no longer felt um like I could hold that emotion back from these clients anymore. So I emailed them. But I have never gone this far into a commission and not knowing what to do. This is actually the
Hmm.
second time this interior designer has asked me to replicate a painting I've already done. I just need to tell her I can't do that, Jill. I cannot make a painting over again. And I've tried to explain this to her many, many times, but I don't think it quite registers. And then at the times where she comes to me for jobs, I'm feeling this desire for money and
Right.
and she comes to me at the specific times that I desperately need a job to do
Mm-hmm.
and I will say yes to it under the circumstances of all of what we're talking about now. So but to go along with what we're talking about in commissions and those different like things that we think about during the process, I actually think I've gotten a lot better with my communication in terms of commission. Right now, I'm doing one for Colleen Michaels and her husband. And what they did is just they came into my studio and I talked about all the work that I had and I watched their reactions to some of the things that they were looking at. And so as they were reacting, I kind of took inventory of their emotional responses to some of these paintings so that I knew what their painting was going to be for them, making them something that's unique for them, but in the breadth of my own technical skills and the skills that I've built up over time that I now trust that I can do. So it's
Mhm.
like I am gifting you this art form that is uniquely mine and you appreciate these parts of it and I'm going to make you a painting with all of these things combined. And then there are people who I don't have the pleasure of meeting them in my studio, especially during COVID time. So what I'm doing is I'm having them kind of flip through my Instagram, send me shots of images that they really like, color combinations that they really respond to. And then we have a Zoom meeting where we talk about, and I just get to know them and their personality. And I want to make a painting for them. So as I'm working on this specific painting that is a replica of something I've already created, I have finished almost 2 commissions in the meantime. I've opened up the experience for me for commissions to be easier, where I'm
Yeah.
telling them, you are not going to get something that's formulated out of me. Like at this point, if you're coming to me for a commission, I will have the freedom. I won't throw in a bright ass red if you don't want me to, but there's probability that I will. And that's just something that I want people to know as they're coming to me for commissions at this point in my career. Like I don't want to have such limited um commissions anymore.
Yeah.
It's too hard and it
Yeah.
makes it not fun. It just
Exactly. Well,
yeah,
yeah, that's like the most purest thing you can really say, and
yeah.
that's
It's
exactly
just
why
not fun.
I stopped doing them. Like people would ask, and I was like, I just can't. Like it's just
Mm-mm.
not the whole point of why I'm like painting is like totally eliminated when I'm working on these because it's
Mm-hmm.
so limiting and I
Yeah.
don't want to do I'm not a printer. I can't like print out like the image you have in your brain like and
Yeah.
nor do I want to like even
Yeah.
if I could like the magic is gone and so I was really
Right.
cautious when I took on this commission but again I was really desperate for money and I felt like I
Exactly.
couldn't say no
Yeah.
but
And
and I think now I'm at a point where I would probably say yes to a lot of them knowing that I would take everything you're saying, which is what I did with this last
yeah.
client too. Like we communicated like almost daily, like every layer. I'm like, oh, I'm really excited about this. And I listened to, I mean, as much as you can via text, like how he would respond, like, I love this. Or like, oh, that's cool. Like, I picked up on what he was responding to as it was almost like we were building it together. And that was kind of cool. There's a fine line, of course,
So that's an
but
interesting experience
yeah.
because I would, so would you send pictures?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'd
I
never done that
cannot do
before.
that. Okay. Because there's a reason why I don't do that. It's
Mhm.
because at any given studio session, the painting could change in an instant for me. Like it could all be gone. Everything that I've done, it could all be gone with one pour, massive pour that I'm doing, and it changes the whole painting. If they're non-artists and people who don't have the ability to see that things can take a quick turn or a direction change at any point, even if you say those words out to them, I still don't think they recognize or really understand. And maybe these are just the clients that I've worked with, but
Well,
yeah.
yeah, you're picking up on something that actually did happen. Like,
Oh,
you
okay.
know, like
Talk to
literally
me.
I texted him, like whatever the next week or something. I'm like, "Oh, here's an update." And he's like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize you were working on two." I'm like, "No, it's the same painting. It just looks really different."
Oh my God.
And I could tell he was less excited about that.
Yeah.
And
And what does
so
that do to you in that moment?
it would it like I said, the whole experience was difficult. There was no point where I felt like it was easy. So, going off that, like, yeah, I felt a little discouraged, like, shoot, okay, I need to bring
Okay.
back a lot of what was there before. And I took all the responses I got as best as I could and move forward. Like, I knew exactly based off how his response changed that he liked the first iteration better. And I took everything that all the qualities about that first iteration, and I brought them back in a different way. Um, but, of course, if I didn't send the photos, none of that would have existed. I would have just kept building the way I wanted to build. And
Mm.
um, this particular situation, I think, made sense because he was very polite and he never said he didn't like anything. Like, I'm not sure if that's happened to me before. I don't know if it's happened to you, but
Yes.
he was like, "Oh yeah, no, it's good. I like it," but it wasn't as excited. I
It
could tell he
wasn't,
didn't like it. Yeah,
wow!
yeah,
Exclamation point,
yeah,
smiley face, emoji.
exactly.
Yeah, no.
So, so I could read into that, and maybe that's just how I like to be communicated with. Like, it was like the most polite way of letting me down, and it made me feel like I could continue
Ugh.
because I've done commissions before where I didn't do any of that. I sent no photos, and I was cautious about doing that this time, but I ended up doing it. And I just kind of showed them the finished product. And actually, I think every time I've done that, it hasn't worked out. There was one time where I was actually actually all the times, I was really excited about it because when you finish a painting, there's a sense of pride. Like, I photographed it. I was like, it's done. Like, here you go. And they're like, oh, it's not quite what I wanted. And that's
Mm.
happened every time. Every time this last commission was the only time it ended positively with no edits.
Oh my
And
god.
yeah, and like there was one this big diptych where I don't even know how many feet wide it was, but I was so excited about it. Again, photographed it and titled it and everything. And there actually was like some really cool conceptual stuff that I was explaining to them about it. And they're like, yeah, it's not really. I guess I thought you were going to do more of this and less of it. Could you get rid of this part? And I was like, sure, yeah. And I
Wow.
did, and, I did exactly what they wanted me to do, as if they were holding my hand, painting it for them, and turned it back into them like an assignment, and I never photographed it in that state. I kept the photograph of the version I liked, and that's
Yeah.
the version that's on my website,
Good, good.
and that's happened a few times where I've done
Yeah.
commissions, and I was like, "I just love this so much." I think it's, like, such a, like, resolved image, and it exists, and I don't wanna change it, and they've asked me to change it, and that's kinda devastating. So,
It is.
sending the updates via text was, like, hopefully an attempt at, like, "You're there every step of the way, like, speak now or forever hold your peace." Like,
Wow. It sounds like you went through this a lot more than me, and I can only speak to like now 2 times. This is the second time where I've gotten feedback based on photographs that are not positive. I only had one person receive the painting that they asked me to do and tell me it wasn't what they were expecting, and they lived in New York, and
oh,
I drove the painting to their parents' house in New Hampshire because
mhm.
that's where I live, and I was fine. I can drop it. And then once they received this, they didn't like it, and I didn't like it. I mean, they were trying to get me to do something I don't do, like a very clear horizon line with a sky and a sea. Like, it's just not something that my brain computed in the studio for me and my work. It just didn't line up, but I put my efforts in full force and even did a write up of it and wrote my feelings about it. And they were like, it's not what I wanted. And my response was, I'm sorry.
Oh my god, and is that how it ended?
Mhm.
Wow, good for
Yeah.
you.
I just said, I'm
Well,
sorry.
we have to, like, because
I,
it's like,
I'm
we're
not
just I
bending anymore.
we're only talking about the emotional side of this where it's like, "Oh, it's such a bummer, like, I really like the image," but what about, like, time, energy, like,
Yeah.
I you know,
They were already
it
getting a discount because
yeah,
there was someone I knew. I drove it even far,
yeah,
right? It's all of
we
this
can't keep doing
energy.
this, like, every time that happened to me, I was like, yeah, a lot of those times I was driving it to people's homes or whatever, like
Mhm,
shipping things, and it costs time and money to like, all
mhm.
right, bring it back into the studio, try and fix it. And like, do you think I increased the price at all? Do you think I charged them more to do an edit? No,
Mm-mm.
I didn't.
I have charged in the past edits. Like when I did it was when I first was getting started with commissions and when I quit my job and when I started to do this for basically full time.
Hmm.
I decided to come up with like a formula, be in touch a little bit along the way, just via email, telling them that it's still in progress or we're getting close or it's time to wrap it up. And when do you want to pick it up or do you want me to drive it to you? Communicating a little bit along the way with also these one edit is free, two edits is $50 an hour or something like that.
Hmm.
And I found that to even be too rigid for me. Like, I know that we are the creators of like our own world. Like, we get to set up the boundaries. If someone says to you, I want a painting from you, you get to be the person to say, well, this is what you can expect. But when
Hmm.
you first start out, you really don't have that power right. You don't feel like you have that power right away. At least I didn't. I felt like I
Right.
needed to really bend for them. I feel like I bend and it hurts too much and it just takes away the entire process and it makes me feel like I didn't even work for anything and
Hmm.
I didn't make a difference somehow for somebody and that can hurt and sting. But at the end of the day, like there is power in learning from these experiences. You sit down and you respond to an email saying, I'm sorry, this experience didn't go as you thought it would. I hope in the future, when you commission another artist, something can work out that's better. Like maybe these
Yeah.
are a form of communication. But what I have found helpful in all of this, I guess what I have learned, I don't know why I'm having itchies in my nose. um, is that when I'm happy with the work, even if it's 3, 4 big pours and I haven't overcomplicated it and I haven't tried to make it like what I think they would want, if I'm just saying, hey, I'm showing up for this painting and I'm going to make a beautiful painting and I'm happy with the result, usually when I go to the client happy with my results, they're happy with it. And when I'm not happy with something and I give it to them, they know. They can pick up on that energy. They know when I'm not proud of it. I've done a few commissions where they're like, are you happy with this? And I'm like, not really. And they're like, okay, well, do you want it back? Do you want to keep working? And I desperately want to say yes, but I desperately also want this to be done. Like, I'm like, I don't want this in my life anymore. I want this to go away. Like, take it
Yeah.
away, put it on your wall, live with it. Maybe I'll change it in later.
Yeah. I wish I could say the same. I
Mm,
was devastated a lot of the times I gave a
yeah.
painting and I really liked it. I thought it was like the few
Mm,
paintings I did, I thought were really cool. And that's why I felt even so proud to like take a photo of when I thought it was done and
yeah.
post that version. Like,
Right.
why do you think people want commissions? I have some thoughts about it, but I'm
Mm.
curious like why why people ask for commissions.
Well, in my experience, I think they see this artist that they've been following for a long time. There's a few different people. One version of this person is they've been following me for a long time and they're like ready to put forth their money towards a painting that's specifically for them, that I've put my energy into. One that like I didn't just make and they responded to and bought, but something specifically for them. I think that some people who are commissioning really do want to boost the economy, the artist community, and really help artists survive and thrive and give them the opportunity to make something. And I think that those are the best people that we can get to say, hey, I want a painting from you. This is what size I want. Go crazy.
Mhm.
Love those clients. I'm like, okay, cool. And they're like, and they all know that that's the way that we want to create. But then I think the other people who want commissions are more so they want to fill space on the wall, but they don't know how to make decisions in stores like Target or Home Goods or TJ Maxx, and they don't know what kind of vibe that they're trying to get. And they've seen my work a few times, and they know that it can be ethereal, or they know that it can be tied to the ocean, and it could be landscapey. And so they're like, well, I think this would definitely fit into my home. I think you're the artist for us. And they'll commission for that reason. Is they're more looking for an interior designer to tell them what
Yeah.
to put in their home, and
Yeah.
expecting the artist to fulfill that. I think I could give you a million answers, I think, to
I
why
know.
people want commissions. To be honest, I think it
Yeah.
comes from different places.
Like the custom thing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that particular thing, but like I want one like for me that's like custom.
Hmm.
And I think that, it's like why people get like drawings of their kid. Like it's like
Yes,
a
it's
thing like
easier.
that's made for them and it feels custom. I don't know. I keep saying
Yeah,
that word.
it
Like it just
feels
feels like,
special. It's like a
yeah,
different
special.
experience, right?
Yeah.
It's good for them to feel special. Like,
Yes.
what would you, okay, who would you commission? Would you commission an
Oh.
artist?
No, I would never commission an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I swear, like, I will say this before I say what I'm about to say, which is like, I'm open to doing, I'm open to doing commissions. I
Don't
need
want you to get
money.
it. Don't get it twisted, everyone. We want
I
the
need,
commission.
I need money and help me survive. However, like, I view commissions a lot of times as like a slap in the face. Like, to me, it reads as like, I saw everything on your website. I saw that there's, a few works for sale. Not really cutting it. I want something else. Like that's
Right.
kind of
As
how I view.
if they're, oh my God. Yes. It's as if they're expecting you to make something better, and maybe there is a better
Yeah.
painting in there somewhere. There's always better paintings that
Yeah.
are inside of us, but it takes 100 paintings to get there. So
So if
what do you
there's
think?
if there's any of that energy that I feel might be present, I'm like, okay, this just isn't gonna work.
Wow.
Um, I do respond well to people that are like, I love your work. I wish I could get, that really dark one you posted, but it's only 12 by 12 and I desperately need like a 40 by 40. There's just no other like I need that particular size or something close to it to fit in the particular spot that I want in my house. And like I love that painting. That I can get behind because it's like you clearly love at least one painting or maybe a series of five or so that you love, but it's not quite the right size. That is like kind of my ideal where I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I know exactly what you're looking for, like a particular color or energy, and all you want to fulfill your need is like a different format, a different size. Maybe you don't want it on paper, you want it on panel. I I like that because it shows that like if I created whatever painting that they liked in the size that they wanted, it makes me, whether it's a lie or not, it makes me believe that they would have bought it as is.
Mhm. Mm.
Versus like, I saw it, it's not really what I want. I want something more like this. Can you do that? Like that, I don't really respond well to.
I mean, I don't know who would respond well to that. It's basically saying your other work isn't up to par and I don't like it. And it's like, then why would you hire me to do a painting that you potentially would also not like? Like if none of what I have available for you is what you want, there's little to zero chance that I'm going to create something that you're going to love. I do get clients that come into the studio that have already had their vision in mind, but they just want to meet with me and look at the work that I have. And um, they often just like love what's going on, even if it's not their favorite painting. They're like, I just love the way that you've applied this. I love the feeling. I love this emotional. They respond emotionally to the work. And I think it's really interesting. Like I it always baffles me that people are so responsive to my pieces and specific colors, and then they ask me to do something really specific. I'm like, okay, well, you see what I can create when it's just me. And
Yeah.
right.
I think
So
there's a disconnect there because they're so excited about the
mm,
magic that happens when you are free and they want
mhm.
you to do it again with restrictions, and it's not really possible. We can
Right.
probably get close, but
Well, because okay, so if like both of you and I have a sense of ritualism in our work, whether it's like a meditative process that maybe you can respond to. For me, it is sometimes I do get in some sort of trance state, I guess operating off of pure emotion and risk, right? All of this is kind of a meditative state of color for sure. It's coming from something. And then other times it's more reactive to I really want to respond to this thing that happened outside. Like I really like this puddle that I saw, and I would really love to like have that experience again where I saw that puddle and I want to make that puddle and I want to experience looking at it again.
mhm.
So I'll just make these fantasies for myself within the paintings, and that's how I breed some of this work. And people really respond to all of this stuff. They're like, "Oh
Yes,
my
of
gosh, this
course.
energy, this and then they come to me and they're like, we like this. Can you do this? We'll pay you $2,000. I'm like, yes, of course, bring it on. Of course
Yeah,
I'm going to do that.
exactly.
Of course I'm going to do that. Yep, come on, come on. And I'm
Yeah.
no longer in that trance state. I'm like in a different state of mind
Yeah, it's very
completely.
mechanical. It's very
Oh,
like, you're like a machine, like referencing something very
right,
specific instead of like
right.
what's in your heart, your mind, like
Yeah.
what's happening. There's a real magic. All those moments, like
Mm,
everything is so beautiful to me. And now that I'm more in it than ever, I'm appreciating it so much more. Like the moments where like since I'm like vlogging the studio
mm,
practice, like sometimes I feel a pressure to be in the studio, but I don't necessarily want to apply paint. So I kind of like organize things or flip through things. And that's so beautiful to me.
mhm,
And sometimes I find things like, oh my God, there's this like work in progress that I haven't touched in like 3 years. I love this. And then I apply paint to it and then I
mhm,
finish it. Like that's so cool to me. Like, the other day, like I got these big canvases and I was like, I just want to like, I had this tiny bit of like yellow and almost enough to like throw away. And I like almost mixed like the whole bottle with water and like I was just like pouring it all
mhm.
over. And like I didn't even feel like using a brush. I was using my hand. And it was just like pure joy, honestly.
Pure joy. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yes. I actually saw the video that you uploaded to Instagram of you working on it, and I gasped out loud because one, I was like, oh, yes, he's doing something obviously so joyful. And two, I was jealous that I wasn't having that same moment. I was like behind the screen doing something that I didn't want to do at the time. And I was like, damn it, I want that because I know exactly what that is. It's that state of mind where you're letting go of everything and you're like, I really like want to use this little bit of yellow. Like, I'm just going to throw down these canvases and I'm just going to fucking
Yeah.
do it. I'm just going to let it rip.
Yeah.
And it's the best. God,
I
that's the
mean,
best.
yeah, I do feel like I kind of have an unusual, in comparison to the majority, like an unusual opinion about all of this stuff. I mean, maybe like we're posting this and maybe there'll be people that can comment or reply.
Yeah.
Uh, but like, I would never commission anyone because I want what we just described. Like, I
That
want all the
freedom.
magic and
Yeah.
joy and freedom of like purchasing something that they made on their
Yeah.
own because they wanted to.
People have been reaching out to me in terms of, I really want a big painting. I'm like, okay, well, the next time I'm working on this, I'll think of you during that
Mhm.
process, right? It's not a commission. There's no restrictions. I just will say, oh, this person might want this big piece. Let's
Mhm.
have fun with this. And that's actually been a super helpful way of thinking for me in terms of creating it, but also knowing I have someone to reach out to after it's done to say, hey, do you like it?
Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
relationship because it's
Yeah.
really open.
Yeah. It's open.
It's just open,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah. It's open, period. Period. And I'm like, not like so pissed about it. I'm not like, oh God, I have to get to this and like mix this color perfectly, or I don't know. It's taking risks in the work that feels so joyful. And that's when you make the best work. It's so how do you, as an artist, and this is something that maybe other artists can respond to, is how do you, I guess it maybe is consumerism in the painting world and how we have to form our relationship around selling work. And does that change
Mm,
the process for us? Does that change our way of making? Does it change our course of action as we're moving through? Obviously, we are saying yes, it does.
yeah.
100%. So if anyone wants a commission from us, you know what to do now. You know, to just give us the freedom and say, love these colors, would love for you to just create something maybe within that platform and go crazy and hit me up when it's done. Eh,
Wow. Yeah, I've never had what I want, which is what you just described. Like, and if that happened, that would be really cool.
yeah,
Like, really, it's just the size thing. Like,
it's the size
if you
thing.
love my work and you can pick like a selection of however many that you love and you want it in like an unusual size or a really large size or really small, and I just don't have that size you want,
Mhm.
like, I would love to like make something really open and exciting in whatever size
Yeah,
you want.
and whatever size you want. I do give them a little bit of a price range. They're like, they'll be like, so how much are your pieces? I would really love to give a painting to so and so. How much are they?
Mhm.
And I'll like give them the sizes that are small first, and then I'm like, and then in this range you'll get more of like the thousands. We're entering into the thousands when we hit 3 feet, or actually,
Mhm.
yeah, 3 feet. So it's like, and then usually, those kind of people really steer towards the small works. But then when someone does ask me for a big piece, I think they know it's going to be expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
in the early stages of my career, they'd had no idea that like anything like a 3x4 painting is going to be over $1,000. I mean, some people have no idea that that's the price that you put on something that large.
Hmm.
And I didn't even understand it then either. I was like, you know what? I don't know why this is 1,000. And like, and then it makes you question. You're like, oh, if you're confused about this, should I make it less? You get really confused about all this. It's like such a
Yeah, this
confusing
is like
thing.
a whole
We're
other really
we're entering into a different thing and we're
it's a
like
really
running out
big
of time.
yeah, it's a really
Yeah.
big topic about like how to
Yeah.
price your work and everything, and we should
Yeah.
definitely talk about that because it's
Yeah.
really it is confusing, and there is like an element to like, I mean, we spent this episode talking about commission specifically, but I
Mhm.
think in everything there's an element of like education. Like, you kind of have a lot of times you have to educate potential collectors
Sure.
about your process, about your pricing structure, your like
Right.
everything.
Right.
And
So you're not just the artist making the work and sending it off. So then all of that magic, at least for me, gets kind of lost in the process of making the work. And, I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, all we do is make the work. But if you're making it your business or making it a profitable experience for you, um, it's just not the way it goes. Like you can't just have all the freedom. Not in the beginning, at least. I think I always have like a way of describing things in a negative way when I'm really obviously keen on all of it because I'm doing it. But
mhm.
um, I guess I only really talk about the hardships of something.
Well, both are often always present, some more than the
Yeah.
other. Like, this past commission I worked on, it was pretty equal. Like, the whole entire process of making it was really difficult and challenging, but the end result was I was really excited and proud of it. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
without going over every single commission I've ever done, like, yeah, there's like good parts and in struggles, but I'm glad I did them. Like, I learned a lot about
Yeah.
myself. I
No,
learned
it's
a lot
true.
about, like,
Yeah.
my capacity for, making things under, like, certain restrictions and rules sometimes,
Okay.
and
Yes. Okay. So one more thing I want to talk
Mhm.
about. It's we have like a few minutes, but like,
Yeah.
at what point do you not want to use this as an opportunity to learn something new? At what point do you say, I would just like to make my own work today? Like, do you just decide, like, today in the studio, I'm going to work on something else while you have this kind of more structured commission over here to the right? And you're kind of like, not today. Don't want to feel challenged today. Don't feel like learning something new today. Want to just be joyful in this painting that's right ahead of me. I mean, honestly, that is how I've been operating in my studio.
Yeah.
I
I think it's always gonna be a challenge, and it's always gonna change, like, there's no clear path. I
mhm.
think it's, like, it depends on so many things. Like, I know for me, there'll be a day where I feel stressed about money, so you better believe that particular day is the day I work on that commission. And
Yeah,
then
oh
there's a day
yeah.
where I'm like, "I don't even need money," and that's the day that I work on the thing that I wanna work
I'm
on.
rich in my life right now. I do not need this.
Or, like, sometimes I feel pressured about time, like, I told them it would be about a month or 2 months when I finish this, and we're about a month and a half,
Yeah.
so you feel pressured.
Yep.
So or, like, if you told them 2 months and you're only at, like, the 1 month mark, like, I'm probably gonna be more inclined to balance out the process of making that particular piece with
Totally.
so it really changes,
Yeah. You just nailed
honestly,
it.
day by day, like, and I just respond to, like, whatever I'm experiencing in the moment, as I'm sure you do too.
Of course. Of course. I guess I'm just kind of more yeah, like how do you tell a client or customer that I'm just responding with the way that I feel today? Like,
Oh, I know, I worry, like, that's why I wanna really end this saying, like, we love and care about our work so much, and the whole point of talking about this is to hopefully, like, demystify the whole process, because I don't think really people go into, like, wanting a commission with negative intentions, and I don't think they even realize, like, what we're thinking and feeling. So by sharing it
mhm.
and by, like, being open about it, maybe we can actually make better commissions. Maybe we can make commissions that people enjoy more by setting everybody up for more success.
Hmm.
So
Oh, that's
that's my hope.
interesting.
Like, I don't want us to come across like
We hate,
commissions, like it's so annoying, like
please don't
whatever.
buy from
Because
us ever.
it's not that at
No, God,
all.
no, not
Like,
at all.
yeah,
Not at all.
I would actually love to do a commission like under the circumstances that you described. Like that would be so cool. Like I'm making every day and I'm making work that's actually really connected to one another, but also really different from one another. And
Mm,
to add something in the mix where someone's like really responding to a particular thing that's happening and I get to implement that in a different
mm.
way, larger, smaller, whatever, like that would be so cool.
You get this a person that sees you and your work for who you are, right?
Yeah.
They know how deeply you care for the work, so they know that you deeply care about the process. I mean, I love when people really see something in my work that they just hope to have in their house that brings them joy. And then
Hmm.
I get to, when there's like total love surrounding the piece of they not only love the painting, but they're trusting me. They trust me as a person to create this for them. And that alone is like, whoa, they're going to spend thousands of dollars on something for their wall from that I'm creating. It's, you can either be like, that's so much pressure, or it's such a honor. It's like, oh my gosh, you're choosing me. They see the painter, they see the process, they see how much goes into it, and they want the whole experience. And that's when I make the best work, right? It's like
Yeah.
when they really see me for me and they're like, you're saying
Yeah.
something in these. And I'm like, if you can tell me what I'm saying, tell me. Cause I sometimes have no idea what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
I mean, you're like almost touching on something else that's
Yeah,
that can be so deeply important and exciting, which is like people that want more than an image. Like they are
it's
really
value.
excited about knowing you and supporting you and following your journey. Like, how wonderful is it when collectors or people who commission you continue to follow you and show
And
up at your
continue to buy
shows?
my
And
work.
yeah, like, so it's not
Yeah.
about like, oh, like, awesome, I got the painting that I wanted for my living room. It's more like, wow, I really got to support Morgan, and I love that, like, now she's working on all these, like, blue paintings, and,
Mhm.
like, my painting was blue, and, like, they feel a part of your journey,
Sure.
and
Yes, exactly. Right. Right. They get to
yeah.
follow along. It's a kind of,
Mhm.
it's special. It's like a relationship that you get to have with strangers or returning customers. I get so many people come back for a different
Yeah.
piece and they support that difference in the work and they support that journey. And it's that's the fun part about making commissions. It's when they've followed you for so long and they're like, oh, we're finally ready to like
Mhm.
invest. Can I get your opinion on like what I should do? I mean, do you think that emailing the client was appropriate?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Did that. Also, I in the email suggested what would be best for me to move on. I
Which was
I said I will continue with this color scheme, but I think I need to change some form of the composition to feel like it's a painting for you. Like I really put it on to them for them to know that I want to create something special specifically for them. I don't want them to have something I've already made. And that's
oh,
the
that's a, like,
biggest
an amazing way of approaching it. Couldn't like,
it's
exactly,
what's
like,
holding me back. I don't have that
yeah.
connection with that
Yeah, I
person. I
hope
have
that they'll read it and be like, "Wow, that is so thoughtful." And then not only that,
yeah.
like, they'll be able, as they're experiencing living with whatever you create, they'll remember that, like, this
Okay.
artist went above and beyond trying to create something specific for us and not a replica, and
Yeah.
that's the stuff that, that's the energy that you hope to have in your home when
Yeah.
you're like sitting there at like Thanksgiving and you're looking at the painting with your family. Like, this is a really cool artist. Like, you should look her up.
Thanks. Okay.
All right.
Well,
Well, another good conversation.
yeah.
Thank you for talking with me today.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for you and just being you and being who you are. And until next time, I guess.
Until next time.
Yay.